I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakakwadash. Double honors unto our apostle elders, which rule Great Millstone well, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, Wa Abba Babal. All right. So I was sharing this movie poster. I recommend it that you watch it. It's kind of tedious because it's long. It's a series on Netflix, and there's 5 series, and it shows you the prophecies that the devil is going to come down with great wrath, knowing that they have but a short time. But when they grab the prophets, all right, all hell is going to break loose on their houses, on their people, all right, and literally their people start dropping dead, whether it's through murder or overdosing or some form of spirit of death comes upon them, all right, when they touch the prophets, which obviously they cover the faces of the judges thereof because they are wicked. They set up so-called Caucasians, right, in the place of the true prophets, which you have Israelites that look like so-called Caucasians, but the actual prophecy that is fulfilled is by the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian, which have been scattered throughout the world in slavery. But once again, part of the prophecies is that we would have confusion of faces. All right, some Israelites look like the other nations. All right. Now, Luke 21 is Yahweh Shai prophesying, and he was prophesying of the last days and also of 70 AD. All right. So I'm going to jump to the point. And this is pretty much same thing as Matthew 24, which Matthew and Luke were apostles that walked with Yahweh Shai as disciples. And it says in Luke 21, verse 10, it says, "Then said he," which is Yahweh Shai speaking, that's why you have red letter, "unto them nation shall rise against nation," which we're witnessing that, all right, in the world, all right, you have racial tensions and kingdom against kingdom, which you're getting World War III reports, all right. It says, "And great earthquakes shall be in diverse places." There's earthquakes happening all over the world, and famines and pestilences. They said there's a new virus that's worse than the C-19. "And fearful sights and great signs there be from heaven." Last night, all right, I was outside looking up, and I seen a humongous chariot. It was glowing so bright. It was right next. It went over my house into the east, and it was bright, and it was very bright. Even unbelievers had a question, "What is that?" You know what I mean? It says, "But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you." So they're going to persecute us, and that's what this movie shows you. They persecute. They say truthers, but really, it's the Israelite prophets that they want to persecute because the truth, all right, is doing damage. All right. At the same time, these devils are having what do you call it? Visions. They're having visions. All right, just like Pharaoh, Nebuchadnezzar, these other kings, even the Greek, Alexander the Greek had visions. All right, and Robert De Niro, which I believe he's a Jake. I believe he's a son of Jacob. I believe he's an Israelite, but he's playing a so-called white man in this movie. All right, and he's having visions. All right, and it's really a series, but he's having visions, which he thinks he's losing his mind. All right, but what it is he's having visions. We're having visions on the right hand, and they're having visions on the left hand. All right. So that's why they're very afraid. They're very, very, very afraid. It says in verse 12, "But before all these they shall lay their hands on you." That's because they're afraid, "and persecute you." delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, which they did this to also the prophets, the apostles in the past, but it's going to happen in this generation also when the devil comes down with great wrath, knowing that he has but a short time. Being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake, which they're going to ask us, why are you teaching Yahushua? This is what they asked the apostles in the past, because they're setting up their own idols, which I'll show you an example. All right, you had Donald Trump, Nero, all right, selling images.
So we're going to auction it off, and I'll start at $100,000, okay? And honestly, just, I actually think it's worth much more than that. $2,750,000. Do I hear a $3 million? Yeah. Do I hear $3 million? It's going to St. Jude's. It's going to the sheriff's office.
Which this is a false image. All right. All right. This is a false image. All right. This is a false image. And you see that Nero is promoting it for $3 million. All right. When the true image described in the Holy Scriptures of the Messiah's image, it describes him as a so-called black man, dark skin, dark brown, as if he burned in a furnace. All right. So that shows you that the devil, the so-called white man, all right, which rules the world, is a goddamn liar. And he's accuser of our brethren, the Israelites, which they try to throw us under the bus every chance they get. The so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian, which, according to prophecy, these are the biblical Hebrew Israelites that have been scattered throughout the world in slavery. Once again, we've been scattered throughout the world amongst all nations. All right, so you got Israelites that even look like this image here. All right, but it's about faith, believing in the words of Yahweh, but you would have the Holy Spirit to believe in Yahushua, because the Holy Spirit testifies of Yahweh's Son, Yahushua, through the spirit of prophecy. Luke 21:12, but before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you. Why? Because we're teaching the truth. Yahushua is the truth. Delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. So you can see that playing out. And if you watch this show, all right, they show how it's going to play out. All right, when these T attacks start to happen, all right, they're going to blame us for these events because we prophesy of them. So they're going to say, how did you know? You must have some form of secret knowledge that is a crime, right, against humanity, and they're going to try to pretty much use violence against us. It tells you that in Wisdom of Solomon 2, in the Apocrypha, that the ungodly, reasoning in themselves, all right, they're going to try to use torture on the prophets. Second Esdras, not Esdras, it's Wisdom of Solomon 2. And verse 15, he is grievous unto us even to behold. And what he was seeing in his vision was Bob Ross, which is a Jake, right? He's of the Northern Kingdom, and he has a so-called afro, and he's painting a picture. So that's showing you that they see us, they're watching our videos, and it's terrorizing them. So it's grievous unto the elite of the so-called white race and even these other nations to watch our videos and hear us tell the truth. Great fear fell upon them that saw them, talking about the heathen, seeing us stand on our feet and confess the truth. It says, he is grievous unto us even to behold, for his life is not like other men's. Which this New Year that just passed, right? We're not out there celebrating it, right? Most brothers are doing videos prophesying the destruction of Babylon the Great, the kingdom of the Edomite. His ways are of another fashion, which we're separate from this world. Even though we're in the world, we're not of the world. All right? Just like Yahushua was not of the world when he was amongst the world of Israel. We are esteemed of him as counterfeits, which we tell you the truth, and they are counterfeits, the so-called white race. They set themselves up as counterfeits. He abstaineth from our ways as from filthiness, like that false doctrine of that false idol that you call Jesus Christ, which is a goddamn lie. He pronounceth the end of the just to be blessed, which we're going to get the heathen as our slaves and pay them back when we have them as slaves, and maketh his boast that Yahweh is his father, and we have that through Yahushua. Let us see if his words be true, and let us prove what shall happen in the end of him. So they're going to try to kill us, murder us. For if the just man be the son of Yahweh through Yahushua, he will help him and deliver him from the hand of his enemies, which Yahweh is going to send Yahushua with the angels from heaven to fight for us when there's a certain number of us persecuted. Talking about the Israelites that are in the truth. Let us examine him with despitefulness and torture, that we may know his meekness and prove his patience. Let us condemn him with a shameful death, for by his own saying he shall be respected. All right, so they're going to try us, they're going to jail us. It tells you that in Revelation 2 and 10. All right, they're going to throw some of us in jail. Some of us are going to die for this testimony. All right, but the ones that are chosen for that lot, really, it's not a thing for them. And they show it in here, all right, them doing that to get you to say something they want, right? They're pretty much suffocating them and doing different things, right? Because they have so-called power on earth, all right? They're the God on this earth, and they're the wicked. The so-called white man is a red devil, and he don't care about the truth. All right, he's built this empire. He has this wicked-ass empire on nothing but lies. And that's the truth. They show you in this movie, and it's a series, 0 Day. All right, once again, all right. But at the end of it, it shows you that they're going to get the bad end of the stick. All right, they're going to get their judgment. They're gonna lose their families. They're gonna lose their wealth. They're gonna lose everything's gonna be taken from them, and they're gonna be cast into slavery. All right, under the Israelites, and we're gonna pay them back for what they've done unto us. All right, it says, and it shall turn to you for a testimony, right? Because while they're persecuting us, it's gonna turn. The Lord's gonna turn our captivity to us having victory. It says, settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer, which, you're not supposed to be worried about it, right? And I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that. No, just be in the spirit daily, feeding the flock of Yahushua, which are men, Israelite men, that are chosen of power, Yahweh, all right, and feed his flock. Feed his sheep, all right? And the Lord will provide anything we need, even the words that we must say before these wicked leaders that rule the world of the Edomite and other nations, right? Even these 2/3, they're condemned also, that believe in false idols, right? You got Israelites throughout this whole corrupt system. It shows you that the right hand man to De Niro in this movie was a Jake, right? They show you Jake is a sellout. They're all through the military. They're all in the prison systems, not just the prisoners, but the guards. Jake is a motherfucking sellout. That's why 2/3 have to die here with the heathen, because in their wicked ass mind, they would rather the so-called white man to continue to rule in his wickedness. So they're gonna fight against the truth, right? So that the so-called white man could continue in his murdering, right? Deceptions, murderous deceptions that he plays out on earth. All right, so 2/3 of the nation of Israel is going to perish, being deceived, and the heathen, they have no salvation. So fuck them. All right, and it says in verse 15, Yahweh Shai says it, Luke 21 verse 15, red letter. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom through the Spirit, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. So we're going to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, right? And they're going to bring up false witnesses against us, and it's not going to work out, just like it didn't work out for Yahweh Shai, right? When they were going against Yahweh Shai, they brought up false witnesses, but it didn't add up. To the point where Pontius Pilate said, I can see this man is guilty of nothing, but that they envy him. See, they envy Yahweh Shai, and that the Father Yahweh was dealing with him. So that's really what this is all about. It's envy. And the envy came through the devil, the so-called white man, and that's why there's death in the earth. And he uses the woman. If you watch his show, right? Shit, they got a Jake woman, a so-called black woman, as president. See, so these 2/3 reprobates have to go with their master, right? Which they're all going to go in a lake of fire. America is going to become a lake of fire according to prophecy. All right, all these nations that are allies and enemies with Babylon the Great are going to burn this whore, this great whore, with fire. And it's going to become a lake of nuclear fire via nuclear missiles that its allies and enemies that are going to shoot upon it. All right. It says in verse 16, Yahweh Shai says in Luke 21, verse 16, and ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolk, your family members, and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death, which Lord willing, it's this year that the apostle coined by the Holy Spirit, right? Apostle Tahar named 2026 the year of apostasy, which is the betrayal, right? These men that claim to be in the faith, and they're going to betray the faith. Why? Because they're going to make an implantable microchip mandatory for buying and selling. And if you don't accept it, they're going to put you to death, all right, or cut you off and put you out of society, hoping that you starve to death. All right, so a lot of men, women, and children of the Israelite race are going to accept that and be destroyed with it. They're going to be in the lake of fire, the nuclear destruction of America. A lot of them are going to be sent off to die in war. All right, it says, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, because we're telling you the truth. We're telling you the prophecies, and not only the heathen hate us, but even the majority of our own people, which they're going to be deceived into taking that implantable microchip because they don't hear the prophets. They don't hear the prophecies. They're unfaithful, and they're going to die in their unfaithfulness, right? And we're hoping for this year that they make the implantable microchip mandatory worldwide for buying and selling, all right, and this play out to where America, aka Babylon the Great, according to biblical prophecy, the great whore who is going to be destroyed by fire. That fire is nuclear fire, which they have a great sword, the nuclear missile, and it's going to fall upon their own head by the hand of their allies and enemies, the NATO nations, UN nations, and BRIC nations. It says, Yahushua says in Luke 21 verse 18, but there shall not an hair of your head perish if your patience, in your patience possess your souls. So prepare your souls for what we are expecting through prophecy. Whether it's to lose your life, lose your family's life, lose your house, lose your job, lose your ability to operate in this society because you don't take that implantable microchip. All right? Because if you accept it and you go down to Egypt for help, you're going to end up in the judgment, which the Lord's going to destroy the spiritual Egypt by nuclear fire. It says in 2nd Ezra 15 and 10, it says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter, which they have secret plans to try to slaughter us. I will not suffer them now. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. Talking about America. Look at the back of your dollar. Look at the monuments in the capitals of these different states. But I will bring them with the mighty hand and the stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues, which the plagues are really going to kick off when they start to persecute us. And they know it. That's why they haven't persecuted us as before, and will destroy all the land thereof, which Egypt still exists. So this is talking about America, spiritual Egypt. All right. It says in Luke 21 verse 20, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, which he's prophesying of 70 AD. All right. But in this modern time, there's going to be a time where they they go into that land, all these militaries of Esau, right? These other nations are going to gather their troops in the valley of slaughter, the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is known in the scriptures as Armageddon or Armageddon, which is a mountain of troops, Armageddon. All right. It says, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. All right. So then the Lord is prophesying of 70 AD, verse 21, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains which are in Egypt, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. That's why you have Israelites scattered in 70 AD, and let not them that are in the countries enter therein too. Don't go back. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Which all these things were prophesied, even 70 AD, and even the judgment that we're prophesying of in these last days. But woe unto them that are with child, to them that give suck in those days. Because when you read about it, when the Romans sieged Jerusalem, there was cannibalism. They were eating their babies because there was no food or water coming in. For there shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people, which this is going to happen again in our time. All right, they're sieging the society now, right? They're going to pretty much cut off the resources, and people are going to eat their kids. They're going to eat their family members. It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, which we've been scattered throughout the world. And that's why we're all over the world, because we've been led into captivity into all nations because of our sin. But through Yahushua and his sacrifice, we have remission of sin, we have redemption, we are able to return to our power Yahweh. It says, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled, which were at the last days. All right, the time of the Gentiles, of this truth being sent out to the Israelites that have been scattered amongst all these nations, is coming to an end. And it was sped up by us getting the internet, so that we don't literally have to travel on plane or boat or even car, but just put up these videos in a moment, and it's spread throughout the whole world to the four corners of the earth. Wherever the Israelites are, they could see it and hear it in the language that they speak. It says in verse 25, and there shall be signs in the sun, which is happening, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress, and upon the earth distress of nations, which there's uproars even in Iran now, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And then these things begin to come to pass. Then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. See, so they're going to catch plagues for touching his anointed. He said, touch not my anointed. So as soon as they touch the prophets, and they're going to sacrifice some of us for this testimony, right? The Lord's going to raise the standard and send Yahushua back with the angels, the host of heaven, to fight for us. All right? It tells you in Revelation 6. And it is... Let's see. I'll just start at 1. It says, and I saw when the Lamb is Yahushua, opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him, which is Yahushua, had a bow, and a crown was given unto him from Yahweh, and he went forth conquering and to conquer, which he conquered death as the Messiah, and soon he's coming back as a God to conquer all his enemies, the other nations. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was red. And this is talking about the nation of Edom, the so-called white race, which are actually red devils, the Bible speaks of. And power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. So the so-called white race, they were given the ability to take peace from the earth. Just how they drop bombs on societies without a worry about it. And that they should kill one another, World War I, World War II, World War III. And there was given unto him a great sword, the nuclear missile. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, which we know that the wicked, they're unjust. So what do they bring? They bring in famine, death, and destruction. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. You're going to see hyperinflation that you've never witnessed on earth before under this so-called white man. And as his kingdom collapses, he's going to bring forth famine, death, and destruction. And with that, he's going to cause hyperinflation. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine, which the prophets are protected. And that's why when you go against the prophets, you're going to bring death upon yourself. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, which the devil brings what? Famine, death, and destruction, which is being sent by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai with this motivation. 2nd Ezra 15, verse 4, for all the unfaithful Israelites shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, which is that so-called white race, which is a weapon of mass destruction in the hand of the Lord, and that so-called white race, Edom, causes famine, death, and destruction. All right, so that's what he's got in the heart of this devil, is to bring forth famine, death, and destruction, to take peace from the earth. And power was given, this is in the middle of 8 in Revelation 6, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Yahweh and his son Yahushai, and for the testimony which they held, which we testify of Yahweh's son Yahushai through the word of Yahweh by the Holy Spirit, which testifies of Yahushai in the spirit of prophecy. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So they're going to persecute some of us even unto death. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and that's because of that nuclear destruction at the return of Yahushai. And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Which the Lord is going to use that nuclear wind to wipe America off the face of the map. All right. It says, and the heaven departed as a scroll, which is the mushroom cloud, when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman and every freeman hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne. And this is why you see billionaire bunkers. And from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Which he's going to shake the earth with an earthquake that's never even been felt before. All right, it won't even be able to be measured. It's going to be so great that pretty much it's going to be like the heathen were never here. Their buildings are going to become rubble. At the same time, right, the excellency of the heathen, which is America, the kingdom of the Chaldees, all right, is going to be turned into a lake of fire and eventually a desert of brimstone. All right, and all the military of the world, they're going to be turned into ash and smoke. All right, when when he comes back. So this is why we're hoping to be saved and taken into the chariot with Yahweh and his son Yahushai by the angels. It says in Matthew 24, verse 29, it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days which were in Jacob's trouble, but that implantable microchip becoming made mandatory for buying and selling is going to cause a great tribulation. Immediately after the tribulation of those days when they make the chip mandatory, shall the sun be darkened and the moon shall not give her light, because they're going to put some of us to death, and it's going to bring the judgment of this whore. And the stars shall fall from heaven, and that's what the nuclear missiles are going to look like, stars falling from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, which the elite are going to be in the bunkers, the billionaire bunkers, outside of America. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man, which is Yahushua in heaven, on a chariot, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. All these people are going to be, it's going to be a day of dread. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven, which are chariots, so-called UFOs, so you understand, with power and great glory, which he received from the Father Yahweh. And he shall send his angels, the host of heaven, with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect Israelites from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. All right? So we're at that time when they're going to make that implantable microchip mandatory for buying and selling and persecute the prophets, which will eventually lead to the destruction of this great whore. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Wa abba babal.